So our first unit is going to be over governments, or our next unit is over governments. So my question to you guys is this: what is a government? Okay, you've heard that word a ton, but what actually is it? Okay, a group of people or a person who makes rules and laws and things you have to follow. Yeah, that's part of it. Bobby? Okay, so sets prices and determines that minimum wage we talked about before. Yeah, they do that. Do that. Anything else? Rob? Run the state? Yeah, that's part of it. Control the taxes? Yeah, that's a big part of it. So our government is pretty much how we regulate how a group of people either behaves or acts. So governments can be big, they can be small. If you think about your classroom, okay, here in our classroom, we have a type of government. Um, I kind of direct this group of people, you know, what to do, how to act, whatever. Um, if you want to think a little bit bigger than that, our school itself is a government. Okay, so you've got your superintendent who directs the principals, who direct the teachers, who direct the students about how they want that group to behave, act, how they want them to do, how they run the school, the day-to-day operations, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So with governments, it's pretty much just how this group of people is going to operate. So there are two types of governments as far as how they work. A government's either going to be limited or it's going to be unlimited. And the difference is pretty easy. So in a limited government, that's where the people who are in charge have restrictions on their power. Okay, there's certain things they can and cannot do. In a limited government, the leaders or the ruler has to follow the same rules as everybody else. So, for example, here in the United States, if I go try to rob a bank, well, I'll be thrown in jail. If our president tries to rob a bank, he'll be thrown in jail. Okay, he's got to follow the same rules and laws and things that the citizens do for the most part. They just can't do whatever they want in a limited. They've got to follow regulations and rules. In an unlimited government, though, that leader or that small group of rulers can do whatever they want. If they say, if you wear blue this week, you're going to jail, well, guess what? If you wear blue, you're going to jail. No matter how ridiculous that rule or law is, okay, they said it, so it goes. In an unlimited government, if the ruler decides that, hey, I'm going to walk in here and rob this bank, well, he's going to rob the bank and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Their power is unlimited. It's exactly what it is. It's a dictatorship. There are not very many unlimited governments around in the world anymore. They are pretty rare, but they do exist. All right, so why do we have governments then? What is it that they do for us? Person? Manage the equipment that we need? To an extent, yes. To an extent, yes. Okay, so how do they do that? How do they keep everyone in line? Okay, so they have rules and laws and things that we've got to follow. Kind of keep everybody safe and make sure everyone's not doing whatever they want. Okay, there's a reason why we stop at red lights. There's not a policeman there telling us to stop at red lights, but we do it because it's the law, or it's the rule. Okay, they make decisions for us. Like what kind of decisions, Chloe? Okay, yeah, it's a lot easier for a smaller group of people to make decisions instead of everyone trying to do their own thing. Sure. Very good. So it sets up our tax system so we can collect money to pay and buy certain things. What kind of things do we use taxes for? Okay, yeah, roads. That's a good one. Anything else? Robbie? Okay, roads and bridges. Yeah, sure. You can throw like dams and canals and things in there too. Yeah, military equipment. That's a great one. If Canada decides they want to invade us tomorrow, it's not my job to hurry up and build or go buy a tank and defend our country. It's the Army does. Our government provides for that. Yep, fire and police. If my house catches on fire, yeah, I can go out with the garden hose, but it's probably not going to do a whole lot. Instead, I can call the fire department. They'll bring a special truck out with special hoses, and our firefighters know how to put out fires a lot better than I do. If my car gets stolen, I don't have to go track it down. The police will do that for me, sure. Anything else? You guys are missing a huge one. You're sitting in one. Yeah, your schools, okay? You're sitting in a building that was paid for with tax money from the government. The government will provide for schools and things. So there's a lot of reasons why, or what we use our government for. Okay, so it helps protect us from other countries and each other. Like you said, if war starts, we have an army that will protect us. Ensure the well-being of the people, and to provide services that individuals cannot provide for themselves. So you guys mentioned education, police, fire. What you didn't mention was health, though. Okay, so if I get really sick, let's say I get cancer or something, and I can't afford my medicine or my treatment, does that mean that I just have to sit at home and die? No. Okay, there are places that our government provides and pays for that I can go get the treatment and stuff I need, or the medicines and things that we would need. Same thing with like food programs. Our government provides different programs where maybe mothers who can't afford to feed their children, or maybe someone's been injured or is really sick or has a disease and can't work. Our government provides services so that those people can feed themselves and have a place to live. And then the last one here at the bottom, prevent order, maintain chaos. Or wait a minute, said that backwards. Maintain order, prevent chaos. It's not just a bunch of people running around doing whatever they want. Our government provides a system where we have rules and laws and system and things that we follow to kind of keep everybody safe. So guys, this is number 15 on your study guides. All right, so most governments do try to help their citizens the best that they can. There are a few governments out there, and they're usually those unlimited types that we talked about before, where it's usually not their main priority to help all of their citizens. But that leads to some things that we call push and pull factors. Push and pull factors are pretty much things that either are going to draw people into or out of a country. With a push factor, it's something that is going to make people want to leave an area. Think of it as it's pushing you away. Okay, it's pushing you out. So the examples I have up here are, pollution and bad schools. But what else might make you want to leave a country or leave an area. Okay, yeah, if there's a war in that country, sure. A lot of people would want to live there. Like if they had or didn't have them. Okay, yeah, maybe if there's not a police station in your area, what might your area be like then? Probably wouldn't be very safe, right? Okay, so things like high crime or a bad neighborhood. Say again? Okay, so maybe there wasn't access to food or other resources that you would need, sure. Okay, drought would be one. The weather would be one, bad weather. Some of you guys might have grandparents that might live in Florida during the winters or head to Florida during the winters because they don't like the weather here. Or maybe someone who has lived on the coast all their life decides that they're going to move because they're tired of hurricanes. Okay, so weather can be a push factor. That's a great one, lack of jobs. There's not a whole lot of businesses or companies that are hiring in that area. Maybe you lose a job. And then pull factors, guys, are just the exact opposite. Pull factors are things that make you want to live in an area. They're pulling you in. Your examples of pull factors are pretty much the exact opposite of what we just said. So, maybe there's plenty of jobs. It's a nice neighborhood. They have good weather. There's good schools there. There's low pollution. Okay, all those things would work for a pull factor. And then lastly, immigrant and refugees. They're not really the same thing, but I put them up here together. But an immigrant or a refugee is someone who has moved into a different country. Immigrants are usually people who move there. It could be for a lot of reasons. It could be for work. It could be for school. It can just be for a change. Refugees are usually the people who flee a country to get away from a war, some type of persecution, a disaster, one of those unlimited governments or a bad government that they live in. So immigrants and refugees are people who will flee a country due to these push and pull factors. And that's probably a good place for us to stop today. But with our pictures here, obviously, I said bad schools before. You guys probably don't even recognize this building. Some of you might. Yeah, so that old South Zanesville School was one of the buildings that we used before we built this one. Had been around for a very long time. It's kind of old and run down a little bit. We have bad weather, high crime, not a whole lot of jobs, high pollution. Those would all be examples of that push factor, or those push factors that push you out of an area. Obviously, these are just some of your pull factors, things that want to pull you in. Maybe a nice neighborhood or good communities where there's low crime, good weather, nice schools, plenty of jobs.